Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Star Wars Expanded Universe, narrated by Disney or from Lucasfilm, whichever way you slice it, Legends. Today I have for you the 8th book in the Rogue Squadron series, but the 5th Rogue Squadron book written by Michael Stackpole. Before we get into that, though, I have a couple things here. So, I did mention in a previous video a while back the Trouble with Squibs Insider, so I'm not going to mention that again. But we have Adventure Journal number 6, Rendezvous with Destiny by Charlene Newcomb. I don't have much to say about it. It's another story with Alex Winger, but it's a rescue mission. They must go rescue somebody, and Alex Winger must do it. Luke is in this story. It's the only reason to read this story. Luke shows up and helps out Alex Winger, telling her, I can sense the forces in you, and you're gonna be a great Jedi someday. Even though she's never literally in anything that matters. I mean, if she's in New Jedi Order, which I don't think she is. If she is such a small role that she is hardly ever mentioned again. But apparently she's strong in the Force. She's important. Um, and the most disgusting and pissing me off part about this little short story is that Alex kisses Luke at the end of the story. Please, never again. Anyway, they rescue the person they're trying to rescue. Luke goes off to do whatever he's gonna do, like deal with Dark Empire soon, and that's that. Pretty useless story, though. In Adventure Journal number Trail, Adventure Journal number 12, I'm so sorry, Betrayal by Night. Also by Charlene Newcomb. It's okay. There's a dark Jedi, it's not a Sith, and he wants to hurt the Empire. So it's a little bit more nuanced, and Alex has to deal with him, and it's fine. If you like Alex Winger, you'll enjoy this short story. If you're like me and don't really care about her, then it's gonna be kind of boring. But alas, that's what it is. In the Dark Forces Rising source book, there's a story called A Day at the Races. It's just a little story. It's literally like a paragraph. It's fine. And in the Last Command source book, we have The Empire Locate and Detain List. I have nothing to add, but that's a thing. Then we have Adventure Journal number 8, Blazes of Glory by Tony Roos. It mentions the Pentastar alignment, which is a Imperial faction, which that was a little interesting because there's not much on the Pentastar alignment, so I thought that was a bit interesting. I have nothing else to add from this story. It's fine. Now we get to the Book of the Hour, X-Wing, Book 8, Isards' Revenge by Michael Stackpole. It's good. I think it's better than the first 2 books, I'll be honest. But it's not better than 3 and 4, and it's by no means better than any of Aaron Olston's books. But it's fine. Um, it's not really a spoiler. I mean, it's been out for years. But kind of like the big crux of this is Izard's back, as you can tell by the title, but it's a little bit more complicated than that because the Thrawn trilogy. So, because the Thrawn trilogy happened and Thrawn was using clones, Izard also made a clone before the events of the Thrawn trilogy, and the clone is trying to team up with Admiral Krenel. Krenel is from the X-Wing comics, where he has like a robot hand, and she's joining forces with him to defeat the New Republic. Meanwhile, Izard is actually the real one is still alive. She did not die, and she also wants to destroy the New Republic, but first destroying Admiral Krenel and her clone. So it's like the enemy of my enemy is my friend. Um, the main plot, I gotta be honest, I didn't really care. Um, I mean, it did try to backtrack on a couple things because by making the clone exist, and we already know how clones, it's usually more Jedi clones are more unstable than just normal people clones. Like the normal Izar clone is still relatively, you know, all together. This is kind of an excuse for kind of like the latter half failures of Izard in Back to War. But then you also have Izar just talking about how she was kind of flustered after all of her failures and she wasn't thinking straight. She wasn't being as strategic and smart as she used to be. So it's kind of like an acknowledgement that she just wasn't the same in Back to War, which kind of hindered the book for me. That being said, there's a lot of good little minor moments in here. Booster Tarek is the best thing that Michael Stackpole has ever done, more than Cornhorn. Sorry, Booster Tarek for the win. It's the best thing that Michael Stackpole added to the expanding universe by far. Booster Tarek is just the best. There's more Borsk Vela in here, which I forgot, but Stackpole writes Borsk Vela really well. And this is after the Thrawn trilogy. So, of course, you have the Thrawn mentions and the battles that have taken place with Thrawn. And it's a nice conclusion to Michael Stackpole's, like, story with Izard and everything. And there's a lot of good, like, little character moments because Stackpole's good at that. Um, but he's definitely a more plot driven guy than he's a character driven guy. And the plot just, I don't know, it just wasn't all that for me. And there's a lot of dogfights in here, which is kind of what X-Wing is known for. But as someone that's never been very visual with novels, like I can see locations and stuff, but I have trouble, like envisioning fight scenes. Like I'm just bad at that. Like I always prefer action in comics where I can see it. I'm there for the world building, for the character moments. Like that's what I'm there for. The action, I don't care about action. So it's like so there's a lot of that, but it's not really a problem with the book. It's just something that I personally don't like. But overall, I thought this was a great addition to the X-Wing series, and I do think it is worth your time. All we have left now is a couple Boba Fett comics, and we begin Dark Empire. The True, episode 10 and 11. I have some spoilers, not too many, but if you don't want any spoilers, if you haven't read it, or if you don't care about spoilers, or you've already read it, then stick around. But if you don't, now's the time to go. I gave you just the barest essentials. Go if you don't want any more spoilers. Anyway, I'm going to talk about something. So, beginning of the book, Wedge finally accepts promotion and becomes a general because for the longest time he didn't want that in the Alston books. He didn't want to become a general. He wanted to keep being with his squadron. But Akbar makes an excellent point in this book that you are hindering the other characters like Cornhorn and Gavin Darklighter from moving up because you remain in the same place. Don't move up for yourself or even for me. Move up for them because you are holding them back. And they're never going to try to take your position away because they value and care about you too much. So the only way they're going to accept a higher rank is if you move up, which is where he finally learns to accept that. We also get a lot more Ayala in here, and I can see Ayala most definitely becoming the romance option that she ends up becoming for Wedge. But it's only a hint at here. Aaron Alston will take that with strides and completely piss on Kevin J. Anderson by making Kwisatz not be with Wedge because he ends up having a fling with her in the Jedi Academy trilogy. Though I really wish, and this completely separate to Starfighter's Vetamar, I really wish Alston would have just had a little scene with Ghent and have made Ghent be with Kwisatz because that would have worked really well. But alas, yeah. But I love the politics. The politics, like again, I love this in this post Return of the Jedi era Everybody's like, oh, we hate politics in the prequels. It's one of the reasons it sucks. And yet there's so much of it here. And I absolutely love that. I love the political game that Isard's trying to sow. I love it. I adore it. I like that stuff in Star Wars. It's one of my favorite aspects of Star Wars. It's why I can't hate the prequels, because there's a lot of politics involved there, and I like it. But there's a lot of that. There's talks about another Death Star, but it's all hoax. Or is it? Who knows? Gotta read the book to find out. But yeah, I love that. And of course, we got Booster freaking Tarek back. And there's one. This is really the only thing I really wanted to spoiler talk about, because you need it. You need to have that not spoiled when you read the book. But those who know will remember this. The Booster Tarek scene with Borsk Fela. Now again, I have a lot of respect for Fela. He got mad respect because of New Jedi Order and his sacrifice. You have to love Borsk. Okay, you don't have to love Borsk, but I respect him a ton now. And he's a little bastard, but he's clearly just, this corrupt politician in the Zahn trilogy. But even this, which is before New Jedi Order, there is nuance given to Fela. And they didn't have to do that. They didn't have to do that. He, Stackpole could have just made him another generic bad guy like Zahn was kind of going for. But he didn't. Freaking Booster beats the ever living crap out of Borsk because he's being a little titty. And, that was very satisfying to read about. But Borsk isn't talking out loud. He isn't trying to convince anybody of anything. We go inside of his head, and he even says he feels shame. Now, that was quickly overtaken by his embarrassment of being beaten and having to be picked up by his security guards, but still, he felt shame. That's already more nuance than Zahn ever gave us. And so I thought that was really great. It was my favorite scene in the entire book. There's also a really good scene with Borsk and Asser, however the fudge you say her name, the Bothan who's dating Gavin, about how she can't continue to be with him. And that was a really good scene as well. But basically, that's it. There's nothing else that really stood out to me. They defeat the clone, they defeat Isard. How they defeat Isard was pretty good. The actual Isard. She was gonna start up again and destroy the New Republic once and for all. But she was outplayed. Her time has passed. She's never again going to be the threat that she was in the earlier X-Wing books. Her time is done. She is nothing now. And she meets her end. Finally, completely, utterly. No more Izard. Too bad she didn't take the being in prison forever. Maybe Palpatine would have saved her. Considering he's about to come back. But it is what it is. Anyway, guys, thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. Sharing helps a ton. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Till then, may the Force be with you.